Next up, you're going to turn this single crochet stitch into an increase stitch. And you do that by just putting another single crochet stitch in exactly the same spot. And that's because the definition of an increase stitch is that it is 2 single crochet stitches in the same hole. So here is the single crochet stitch we just did. And we need to put our hook in exactly the same spot, which means we need to put it in the same hole that the stitch marker is in, because we know that that is where we just put our first single crochet stitch. If you didn't have the stitch marker there, the other way that you can tell is doing what I call the tugging method, where you grab onto the piece with one hand, the stitch you just made with the other, and you can tell which one is the stitch you just made, by the way, because you can see this loop that is connected to your hook. And if you trace back that loop, you can see the horizontal V along the rim that represents the stitch that you just made. So hold on to that stitch and then do the tugging method and see which hole gets bigger. So you can see that it's this hole, so that's where we're going to put our hook. So remember to try to keep the stitch marker off to one side so it doesn't get in the way. Stick your hook in that hole so it looks like you've got 3 strands of yarn on your hook. Yarn over by bringing the yarn over the top of the hook from the back to the front of the hook, and then pull on the piece and the hook away from each other as you rotate the hook down so that the tip faces the ground as it goes under those 2 strands, and then the tip faces you again as you bring it back over, and then make these loops a little bit bigger than they normally would be as you bring them down the hook. And now we're going to finish the single crochet stitch, the second one, by doing another yarn over. So I'm pushing the working yarn away with my hook, grabbing onto it, pulling the piece and the hook away from each other, and then rotating the tip of the hook down as I go through both loops of the hook on the hook, and then rotating the hook to face me again as I bring the loop down the hook and make it a little bit bigger by pulling away from the piece with the hook. And there you have it. Now you have done an increase stitch.